Welcome to the session. Today we're going to be talking about values and standards. Now, values are your important, long-lasting beliefs on certain issues. When you ask yourself, what's important in my life? Those are your values. Now, often values and principles are confused with each other, but values are actually the foundation of principles. Examples of values are integrity, generosity, and compassion. Principles, on the other hand, are indisputable, unchanging rules that are based on your values. An example of a principle would be the golden rule. You've probably heard that, which is treat others as they would wish to be treated. There's also another law called the law of non-contradiction. That would be an example. That simply means that two contradictory statements cannot be true at the same time. So, for example, your iPhone cannot be on and off at the same time. On the other hand, standards are actions or behaviors which you have imposed on yourself alone, but these are based on your values and principles. So values come first. Now, when it comes to your reboot or recovery, your personal standards guide you on your path to freedom and happiness. Standards actually keep you from making wrong decisions when you're taken over by your very strong urges or when you are not thinking rationally. So if your reboot and happiness is, let's say it's a house, then your personal standards are the gate, the fence, and the alarm system. They are your security against any threats to your long-term goals. Now, during the course of your out-of-control behavior, you may have lost many of your standards, or honestly, you may not have any. So we're going to talk about developing them, but I'm going to start with rules for developing your personal standards. The first is that you must create your own standards, which you will abide by at all times. The second is your standards are not goals or objectives. Those are in the future. Your standards actually exist now. Next is that your standards cover all areas of your reboot capital, which are relevant at that point in your life, of course, health, relationships, finance, social, spiritual, and so on. Your standards should also be very short and to the point when you're putting them out. Your standards should also be realistic. For example, saying something like, I will never have a child as a standard is not the best standard because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Your standard should also be yours and yours alone, not your father's, not your religious leaders, not your mentors, not your wives, not your girlfriends. You and you alone are responsible for your life. Those are a couple of rules when it comes to setting your standards. Feel free to go back to this and go through them as you set your standards. Next, we're going to talk about how to begin to determine your values. Now, a copy of this particular exercise that I'm going to share with you and the questions I'm going to ask you is going to be included below this video. But basically, take a pen and paper and write the answers to these questions. The first is, what are 3 things that you spend your time on most during your waking hours? The next is, how do you spend your money? Chances are what you spend money on are the things you value. What part of your life is most organized? Again, the areas of our life we organize the best are the areas where we usually have the most value. What do you internally dialogue with yourself about the most? For example, if you internally dialogue about your lack of success, it's maybe in your finances or in your career, it's possible that you value that quite a bit. What do you speak about most in social situations? That's an easy one. What 3 items stand out in your personal and your professional space? And what do you do that doesn't cause you to run out of energy? What is it that you do that ends up energizing you? And finally, which parts of your life are most disciplined? And if you're feeling that you're not disciplined in any aspect of your life, you can replace that with what areas of your life are you the most reliable in? And it might be based on what others say or just based on what you notice. So go ahead, put pen to paper, answer these questions, and by the end of the exercise, you should have a much clearer idea on the different things that you value in your life. Again, the reason why I focus on values and standards when it comes to the mental reboot aspect of your life is because we're not going to live forever. And chances are you've already wasted a lot of your time to your out of control behavior. So while there are different areas of your intellectual life that you could work on, instead of spending time trying to figure out what you need to work on mentally, when you spend the time to identify your values and your standards, you can focus on those things. Your values and your standards are going to help you identify the things that you should focus on that are going to have the most impact when it comes to your mental reboot capital. It's an exciting thing to finally have an idea of what your values and standards are. Often when I ask new clients what their values and standards are, they throw out things like just being a good person, not stealing, being a good father, being a good husband. There's nothing wrong with those things. But if you haven't put much thought into it, if you haven't sat down and defined them, then it's going to be very difficult for you to identify things like your purpose or your mission in life, or to have a good sense of direction after you've ended your out of control behavior. So again, I'm so excited that you've gotten to this part, and I'll see you on the next session.